The night I found the verse, my world was already in pieces. My husband had left 6 months ago. My teenage son had run away and vanished into the streets of Cleveland, and I had not heard a single word from God in what felt like years. My heart was like a graveyard, silent, cold, and full of ghosts. But that night, something changed. As I sat on the floor of my living room, surrounded by unpaid bills and unopened letters, I opened my Bible, not out of faith, but desperation, and there it was. One verse. One sentence that pierced through my chest like a burning sword. I whispered it. Then I shouted it. Something shifted, something in me, and something in the air around me. That was when I realized, Satan does not fear my tears. He fears when I believe this verse. Before I continue, let me say a big thank you to every one of you who has subscribed to the channel. Your support means the world, and to all our new and returning viewers who are yet to subscribe, I appreciate you deeply for being here. Please remember to like, share, and most importantly, share your thoughts in the comments below. I read every one of them, and your words keep me going. My name is Lisa Matthews, and this is my story. I live in Chardon, Ohio, a quiet town that rarely makes the news. I used to love that silence, but silence became my enemy when life stopped making sense. My husband, Robert, left me after 19 years of marriage. No warning, no fight, just a text that said, "I cannot do this anymore." That was the last time I saw him. Then came Caleb, my son, my boy, my joy. At 17, he got tangled with a group of older kids from Cleveland. Drugs, guns, fast money. And one night, just like his father, he vanished. No note, no call, just a mother staring at an empty room every morning. I stopped going to church. I stopped praying. What was the point? God had gone silent, and so had I. Until that night, it was mid-January. A snowstorm had swallowed the town. My power had flickered off and on for hours. I sat on the floor, wrapped in an old coat, my Bible beside me like a relic I no longer believed in. My hand trembled as I opened it. I did not know where to start, so I opened it at random. The page fell on Isaiah 54, and then I saw it. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment, thou shalt condemn. I read it again. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and again, and their righteousness is of me, saith the Lord. Tears rolled down my cheeks. Something deep inside me stirred, like a locked door creaking open. I said it aloud. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. Then I shouted it, over and over. I felt like I was speaking to something in the room, not just air. I did not know it then, but hell heard me that night. The next morning, my house felt different, lighter, like the air had cleared. I made coffee. I cleaned up. I played worship music for the first time in months. I even smiled at my reflection in the mirror. I went to Pastor Elena's church that Sunday. She was shocked to see me. I told her what happened. She took my hand and said, "Lisa, the devil is furious." I laughed. I thought she was being dramatic, but she was not. That week, strange things started happening. My television turned on by itself at 3 a.m., playing static. My bedroom lights flickered. My phone rang, but when I picked it, it was just heavy breathing. And then my dog, Max, who never barked, started growling at nothing in the hallway. I told myself it was all coincidence, but deep down I knew it was not. The verse had awakened something, and it was not just my faith. It had awakened a battle I did not understand. Every time I read it aloud, something tried to stop me. I would choke. I would forget the words. Sometimes my voice would just cut off in the middle. It was not normal. One night, I lit candles and read it again, determined. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. I closed my eyes and said it boldly. When I opened them, the candles had gone out. No wind, no draft, just darkness. I dropped to my knees and whispered, "God, what is happening?" That was when I heard it, not in my ears, but in my spirit. "Keep saying it. It is a sword. You are cutting chains." I clung to those words. The next Sunday, I met a police officer at church named Greg. He had been assigned to missing persons in Cleveland. I shared Caleb's photo with him. He promised to run it through the system. 2 days later, he called me. He found a match. Caleb had been seen near a shelter, alive, but not well. He had been arrested, but released. No charges stuck. He was lost, but not gone. That night, I read the verse again, this time over his picture, and for the first time since he left, I slept through the night. But something followed me into my dreams. A dark shadow, no face, just rage. It screamed, but I could not hear the words. It clawed at my Bible, but could not touch it. Then I woke up, sweating and shaking. The spiritual battle was real, and it had begun. But so had my faith. The week after I found the verse was the week everything exploded. You would think that reading scripture would make life easier, that finding faith again would bring peace. But I learned something different, something that church rarely talks about. When you awaken your authority in Christ, you do not just stir heaven, you provoke hell. That verse, Isaiah 54:17, was like a sword. Every time I declared it, something trembled. At first it was just lights flickering, weird dreams, and that heavy feeling in the air. But on Tuesday it got worse. I had just gotten home from work. I teach piano to kids in the neighborhood, a quiet, peaceful job. That day, I felt a strange pressure in my chest all afternoon, like someone sitting on me. My hands were shaking while I played. I could barely concentrate. I cut lessons early and went home. When I opened the door, the whole house smelled like sulfur, burnt rubber and ashes, but there was no fire. I checked the heater, the stove, every socket. Nothing. I lit candles and prayed. I said the verse again. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. As soon as I spoke it, the door to the hallway slammed shut. I jumped. Max, my dog, started barking and whining. He scratched at the closet, growling at something I could not see. I opened my Bible and sat on the floor. My hands were trembling, but I refused to stop. I whispered the verse over and over. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. No weapon formed against. The candles flickered violently, and then they went out again. This time, I did not panic. I got up, walked to my bedroom, and began singing worship songs. No music, no instruments, just my voice and trembling faith. And as I sang, I felt it. The heaviness lifted. The room warmed, peace returned. It was like light had pushed the darkness back. The next day, I got a call from Officer Greg. He had a lead on Caleb. A shelter worker remembered him. Said he was wearing a blue hoodie and limping. Said he looked scared. Said he asked for prayer, before disappearing again. I broke down crying. My son remembered prayer. He remembered God, even on the streets. That night, I wrote the verse on sticky notes, and placed them all over my house, on the fridge, in the bathroom mirror, on the front door, even on Max's dog bowl. No weapon formed against me shall prosper. I read it every time I passed one. But then the phone rang. A blocked number. I picked it up. Silence. Then a raspy voice whispered, "Stop reading it." I froze. I said, "Who is this?" Silence again. Then a scream so sharp, I dropped the phone. Max started barking like mad. My Bible fell off the table, without anyone touching it. I fell to my knees, and cried out, "Jesus, help me." Then I heard it again, not from outside, but from deep inside me. Say the verse. I grabbed the Bible, and read it louder than ever. No weapon formed against me shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against me in judgment, thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord. It has been 3 months since that night, 3 months since the candles blew out, the strange voice called, and I realized what this battle was really about. I used to think spiritual warfare was something dramatic that only happened in third world countries, or old Bible stories. But I learned the truth in my living room, with a trembling voice, a runaway son, and a whisper from God. The battle was not over Caleb. It was not even over me. It was over the word. Satan hates when you read that verse, because he knows you are no longer a victim when you understand it. He knows that once you walk in the inheritance of the servant of the Lord, fear loses its grip. He knows he cannot win against the authority of someone who knows the power of God's promises. After that terrifying call, and the scream that shattered the silence, something changed in me. I no longer feared the dark corners of my house. I stopped jumping at every sound. I started walking like someone who had been given legal power over the enemy. I called a few women from my church, strong praying women. I told them everything. We fasted. We prayed. We read that verse every day out loud together. No weapon formed against thee shall prosper, and every tongue that shall rise against thee in judgment, thou shalt condemn. This is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and their righteousness is of me, saith the Lord. Isaiah 54:17. It was not just ink on a page anymore, it was a declaration. One of the women, Sister June, told me to start journaling everything, every strange occurrence, every dream, every word. That journal became a testimony of how God walked through that verse. And then came the biggest breakthrough. One rainy morning, I got a knock on the door. I looked through the peephole. It was Caleb, thin, tired, dirty, but he was smiling. I dropped everything and ran to him. I held him so tight, I could barely breathe. He cried in my arms like a little boy again. He said, "Mum, I was walking past a church and heard them singing. Something told me to go in. The pastor read a verse about weapons not prospering, and I felt God pulling me back to you." I showed him the verse written all over the house. He laughed. He said, "So that is the verse. That is what chased the darkness off me." He is not perfect. He still struggles, but he is home. He is healing. And now I know, Isaiah 54:17 is not just for show. It is a weapon. It is a promise. It is a reminder that when you belong to God, no curse, no demon, no addiction, no generational bondage can override what God has already said. The world thinks faith is just for comfort, but real faith is warfare. I want you to know, if you are reading this or listening to my voice, it is not by accident. Maybe you are in a battle right now. Maybe hell has been breaking loose in your life. Maybe you feel like something has been fighting you in the dark. Speak the word, say the verse, declare it out loud, even when you are afraid, even when it feels like nothing is happening. Say it again. Because Satan hates when you read that verse, not because it is poetic, but because it reminds him of who wins, and that, my friend, is the secret. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. If this story touched you, share your thoughts in the comments. Let us lift each other up. Let us remind each other of the truth. No weapon formed against you shall prosper,